for me, it got spoiled like when I heard about Jimi Hendrix,
Yeah.
and I just dove into him just like everybody else. You know what I mean? It's
Yep.
like as soon as you discover Jimi Hendrix, like if you're somebody who goes for depth and good songwriting and
He had it all.
music, you're like he's gonna beat out AC/DC. Sorry, AC/DC,
Yeah.
but like he created so much.
Oh man.
Dude, he created so much. I heard a song of his called Belly Button Window. Have you ever heard that?
No.
It's about like a kid inside the womb saying wondering if he's going to get aborted or not.
Jeez.
Dude, he's like I'm sitting here looking out my belly button window, looking around and it doesn't look like people really want me.
What a visual.
Dude, I'm listening to that and it's literally him just and an electric guitar.
Right.
It's a very underproduced song, but if you listen to the lyrics, you're like,
That's crazy.
I was blown away. It made my respect for Hendrix for telling that kind of like
Yeah.
it's a kind of a dark song, because
Sure.
he's like yeah, I'm sitting in my belly button window and you only got so many days or whatever,
Right.
and it looks like you don't want me around. He's like I see a bunch of frowns, but it's like I was listening to his lyrics and I'm like he's not just a rock star. There were two like moments of the first songs I wrote. I started writing lyrics when I was like probably 13. I didn't really know what they like how to like create a song or like the concept of like making a song was, but like I just started writing lyrics and like putting them in like a rhythmic form, like verses and such, and like me and my little sister used to make up hip hop songs when I was little, and even then, and it's funny, but even then like we would like make up like songs, but they were structured. And I look back on it and like yeah, the songs were terrible, like 8-year-olds writing hip hop songs, but like we had made up structure. We specifically lined up structure and like we set it up so it was songs, So like, I think that kind of like instilled that in me, and I just started writing lyrics. And then one day, I got up enough nerve to sing one of them, because at that point I didn't understand how melodies and chords went together. So like I would just make up and like, oh, this is I thought if I made chords, the melody didn't matter. I didn't know anything, so I just like wrote that, and over time I kind of developed an understanding of it. And I think the first song I wrote was cheesy, but it was like drop D, like rock song, and I was like it was. I mean, it had some good lyrics in it. I don't remember what it was called. I don't even remember where it is. And then I wrote a real cheesy one. It was I feel so embarrassed
No,
when I
good.
say this title, but I think it was called like Your Love Is Like the Wind or something. It was
Nice.
Dude, it was terrible. It was horrible. But I remember writing it out. It was like the first one of the first ones I did, and it was like D, B minor, and G or something, like super
Nice.
cliche chords. But from there, like I did one, the first real one that I really, it was almost like all those other songs I didn't like, and then one day I wrote a song that I liked, and I was like I can play this one for people, and it was about my buddy, it's called Different Man, and I played it, and people liked it. Like I think they liked it. I mean, I liked it,
Right.
but so it was like kind of cool. Like as soon as I played that song live, I'm like, oh yeah, I can play some of my songs live. And then it gradually turned into like, you write bad songs here and there, but like after the more you do it, you kind of filter out. You get more consistency. So like I've had phases, and I think with music to where I kind of ironed out what I really get influenced by. Oh, you get influenced by everything, but like artists that I really draw it from, and I just go through phases, and some of my favorite artists now I didn't even know about it when I started.
Right.
But like when I first started, I listened to a lot of, when I was a kid, like a real young kid, my dad would play for me like Johnny Cash and Skinner and like a lot of these, and Zeppelin, and a lot of deep kind of 90s bands that I don't listen to at all now.
Right.
But like it kind of ingrained in me this like idea of lyrics, and even then like we would listen to hip hop, cheesy stuff like Kanye West and stuff. But I wouldn't say that's my influence. But like I remember listening to that and being like, I like this. I think when I started writing songs from the concept of songs, like, or from the idea that like, oh, these are actually songs and not just lyrics.
Right.
People like Eric Church was like my biggest one,
Oh, nice.
because I was a fan of his his old stuff when I was a kid, like his more like country, like radio stuff. And then when I started writing songs, I got into like his deeper stuff, his later stuff, and I really dug it. And like I always credit Eric as one of my top first favorite artists. But and then like I got a Willie Nelson record from my great grandfather, and when he passed away, he passed Redheaded Stranger on to me, and I listened to that from front to back like 80,000 times. And like I was like, whoa, this is crazy, because like it tells a story from beginning to end, but the songs veer off into different subjects, but they all tell the same story. You never leave it, and like blew my mind. And so I'd probably say Willie's probably one of the biggest influences of me as a songwriter. And Jason Isbell.
Cool.
They were probably the first three, I would say, because they kind of led me into each other. Because there were a lot of other bands that influenced me musically with guitar, but like for songwriting, it was like really Willie and Jason Isbell, and then like Sturgill Simpson or something. But like those guys really kind of pulled me in. I don't know. There was something about like an attitude there that was rock and roll, but then there was a depth of lyricism that was like really like poetic. It was like poetic rock and roll, you know, with a twang, and that kind of like. I liked radio stuff and I liked regular rock, but like it was like when it all came together is when it kind of drew me in. But yeah, so to answer your question, like probably Willie Nelson was probably my biggest influence.
Cool.
And
well, I mean, like so throwing Eric Church in there is like you don't like a lot of people say Willie Nelson, right? Willie Nelson's like a huge inspiration for me for all kinds of people.
Yeah.
In folk, Americana, outlaw country, rock and roll, like everybody knows his writing abilities. Not a lot of people would say Eric Church Eric Church. Like that's cool because I think there's something unique about that. Maybe that's part of the uniqueness of your sound, like because you play guitar like a lead guitarist. Like you play a lot of like rocky stuff, but a lot of the songs you play at your sets that I've been at, they're country songs. You have like a country kind of feel and rhythm, and I think that's probably owes a lot to Eric Church. Like, dude,
he's the reason I play. Like, and I'm not gonna say that because I probably would play anyway, but like. When I heard his record, The Outsiders, it's a rock album, but it's got so much songwriting on it that it kind of, so like when I started songwriting, I was songwriting like because I liked like Willie Nelson, Jason Isbell, but I played guitar like I was into like, you know, rock and roll. I was a rock and roll guitar player, but I was trying to write songs that were folky, and I was like, they don't go together, you know what I'm saying? Like, how do I like write riffs for these folk songs? And I fought with it for so long, and it was such a hard thing to fuse together. And then I was like, but the more I listened to Eric when I first started, it was really a nice way for me to realize like, oh, you can really fuse them together. And then the more I got into like Sturgill and like, but Eric is like the reason why I kind of really could put them together, because he does them so well. He does them both so well. Like he can. You listen to him and you see him live. I saw him live and it blew my mind because that was another inspiration for me. It was like this guy plays now that he's this big, selling out arenas. He played for 3 hours. No opener. He took an intermission. Then after the 3 hours, his band left and he went back on stage with an acoustic and played for another 40 minutes.
That's awesome.
And I was just like, he's fusing them together perfectly. And maybe I could do that. And like, I guess this is kind of off topic, but it kind of ties in. Is like when I stopped looking at music so much from the production aspect of it, because I was in love with the sound of the guitars, or because I was in love with guitar and I didn't like synth, or like all these weird things that caused me to like separate music. And I looked at music as this weird kind of like thing that it's all the same, but it just is presented in different ways. All of it changed. Because, like, and what really did that for me was a record called Sound and Fury by Sturgill Simpson. Because, I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's weird. Because it's got synths, it's got guitar, it's got hip-hop elements. It's one of the weirdest albums I've heard, but it's my favorite album ever because that album really, and it came out, like, a year and a half ago. But it really, you have to, like, listen to it from, like, a music standpoint and not from, oh, this is country or this is rock. And when I did that, I realized, like, oh, you know, I'm writing music. I'm not writing country songs. I'm not writing, you know, that. And Eric, for me, was like the first step into that direction, you know. And so he's just my, you know, he's my first guy. You know what I'm saying? Like he's just the guy that kind of made me want to play, you know. He had the attitude too. That's another thing. Is like he had an attitude that I could relate with, you know. And I know I kind of veered off subject for a second, but. To get back to him is like he had an attitude that I could relate with as a kid who didn't really like when I first started listening to him. I didn't really fit in with anybody. It felt like as a young kid, even up till when I started playing music, but like Eric kind of like had this like rock and roll I don't care attitude that I like really kind of gravitated to, and it kind of helped me like find my own kind of identity, I guess you could say, you know. And so like I used to listen to stories of him like getting kicked off tours and stuff because like he didn't follow the rules when he was a kid, and then when he would start playing, you know, he built his fan base up off from the ground. Like he got kicked off of Rascal Flatts tour for playing too long and too loud, and he got replaced by Taylor Swift. And this was before she blew up, and and it was the tour that made her blow up. He got kicked off the tour because he played too loud and too long, and he literally booked shows in every city they were playing at for the rest of the tour and sold out little venues. And I was like, it was funny because like he didn't have to get kicked off if he would have just turned down, you know. But I was also like, look, he's doing what he wants to do, you know, and he built his fan base up from the ground up, and I don't know, so like. It's like certain people don't just draw me because of their music. It's like they just have a persona, you know what I mean? They just have something that just pulls you in. But I also have an issue with people who don't write their own songs, just because I am a songwriter.
Sure.
And when I hear somebody who doesn't write their own songs and every single one of their albums looks the same aesthetically, I'm like, this is, and I'm not trying to badmouth anybody, but it's just like there's nothing about them that really grabs me because I'm not one to like, oh, this looks not, you know what I mean? Like I just, it's not my thing. But if I sense a little depth from somebody, it pulls me in. And as soon as and this is weird because a lot of people don't like him, but a lot of people love him. Is a new guy, Morgan Wallen. I am a big fan of him, and you listen to some of his songs. I just don't really like because they're like your cliche. You know what I mean? Cliche, and I'm just not into that. But I get a depth thing about him. Yeah. There's a depth to him that hasn't been really perfectly brought out, and like I see that, and like I feel I get the same vibe from him that I did when I first listened to Eric Church. So, and that's what draws me to that. I don't get that vibe at all when I listen to Luke Bryan. I just get like, you know, I don't know. I just get like, this is just, it feels to me like more cookie cutter, like just this is just for entertainment, you know, auto tune, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. It's the same stuff everybody says who likes outlaw country, you know, Bryan, you know, skinny jeans, auto tune, but. I mean, honestly, it's not wrong, you know, and I guess if I sense a little depth from somebody, it's like I can really relate, and I really like it, and like it pulls me in a lot. And it took me a long time to get back into country because when I was young, I liked all the radio country. When I was a kid, I liked it all, and then as soon as I found Eric Church, and I got like half of his stuff is kind of radio country, then the other half of his stuff is super deep, kind of dark, and like especially the Outsiders. He has an 8-minute long song in there called Devil Devil, Princess of Darkness. And I remember when I first got into that, I was like, what is he singing about? But the whole song is metaphorically referring to the music business as the Princess of Darkness. And it's crazy. It's actually it's like a 6-minute long poem and then a 3-minute long song. And it's a spoken word poem. And when I first listened to it, I was like, oh, why did I ever put on Jason Aldean? Sorry, Jason Aldean, but why did I ever put that record on when this right here, you know what I mean? So like, as soon as I found deep music, I hated all that cookie cutter stuff, and now I'm going back into like, not liking cookie cutter stuff, but if certain artists give me a vibe of like, oh, they have a depth and a dark side they're not afraid to talk about, I get drawn by it, you know, and just cause like, I don't know, I don't like fake. And when it feels like you're just trying to do something for money or just trying to do something because everybody wants you to, it's like I immediately get turned off by that, you know? Yeah. And it goes back to like my favorite, well, Willie, like I was saying, one of my favorites ever. Nashville basically said, you know, you can't sing. Your voice isn't what we want. And as a kid, I remember one time somebody told me, they were like, you know, you'll be a good guitar player probably, but you're probably not going to be a singer. And I was like, it hit me, you know, and it cut me pretty deep. And for a while I didn't sing because of it. And I mean, obviously, I sucked because I was just starting out. But like, you work at it, you get better, you know. But once they told me that, it like hit me for a while. And then when I listened to Willie, and I realized they said the same thing to him when he was an already practiced, pretty good songwriter. You know, that was after he wrote Crazy. Like he was already established. I was like, wait, he was already established, and they said it to him. Like I could at least try. You know what I'm saying? And so like it goes back to like that realness and that rawness and like. Yeah, Willie isn't, you know, Michael Jackson or something. He can't sing like that, but like, he also like he's him. You know, you can put Willie on any time, you know it's Willie. You know, and it's like as soon as I realized like maybe like I could like create my own thing because my voice is different enough that people may not like it, but that you know, but those that do will. You know what I mean? It's like so it goes back to that. It's like I just like when people have depth and they're real and they're not fake trying to put on an act, you know, because it's what people like. But I also get, you know, there's also people who just they don't need something deep. You know what I mean? There's also people that just need to listen to something that literally takes no brain power to listen to, you know, and it's like easy to please, and it's always been that case, you know, even back in the, you know, 80s, and like there's always been music that's just been there for people to just not think about. And like personally I think it grows your mind to listen to deeper music and better, more complex music, but I mean it doesn't bother me that somebody likes Luke Bryan, you know what I'm saying? Like I don't give it, you know, I don't care. It's like enjoy it if that's what you like, but I just
you do you.
Yeah.
No, I totally get that. I think but you can do that tastefully too. I think a guy does it so like I'm a huge fan of Luke Combs.
Oh yeah.
And part of that's because this dude, like, again, he has this. There's an originality to him, even when he writes songs that aren't deep. Like that the Beer Never Broke My Heart.
Yeah.
It's one of the greatest, most quintessential, like, basic country songs that I've heard in the last like 20 years. It's not deep, but it's original and it feels right.
It's a feel good song, but it's good.
And it's I love it.
Yeah.
There's something about you can do that. That's like I feel like that song is what Luke Bryan wants to get every time he puts a song out. He just doesn't quite achieve it because of other barriers.
Yeah.
Luke Combs is like the guy who can do it right, I guess.
Yeah, he and Luke Combs is I mean personally I think he's a way better vocalist than Luke Bryan.
Yeah, he's got a good pipe.
I saw him live a long time ago before he was big, and like I remember thinking then, oh, this guy, he's also got an element of depth that I could sense. But the thing is like I think a lot of artists have that when they start out, and it's a matter of are they going to decide to take this route or this route? Because I listen to old Luke Bryan, and I get a similar vibe. I get this guy has a certain depth to him. But like, look at the route he went. You know what I'm saying? So like, I definitely see that from a lot of newer artists. But I think maybe, you know, some of them, hopefully they don't go the route of constantly releasing the same thing.
Right.
You know, and another artist who I completely didn't mention, but probably one of the biggest artists for me was Chris Stapleton. But I mean, everybody now, like, if you don't you listen to Chris Stapleton, then what are you doing with yourself? You know what I'm saying? But like when I first started playing, my mom gave me his record for Christmas, and I probably listened to that album more than I've listened to a lot of other records, like the Traveler one. I love Chris, dude. I saw him live. I love trios, like blues trios.
Yeah, well, the Steel Drivers thing, like, is
amazing. And then the Johnson Brothers. Did you ever listen to them?
No.
It's his hard rock band he was in.
Oh my goodness,
dude. When I first heard the Johnson Brothers, I was like, this guy has literally done everything that I like.
Yeah.
The Johnson Brothers, it's a hard rock band with Chris singing, and dude, I was blown away by it, and like he was like for me like another one who really like grabbed me when I first started, because like his style is so unique, but it's also so not you know what I mean? It's not in a bad way, but like it's so unique, but it's also such a throwback too.
Yep.
You know, and like you listen to some of his songs and you just, dude, I can listen to him all day. Like his music just brings me to a certain place. So like I just wanted to bring him up too, because like I mentioned Eric Church and Willie Nelson and like them, but like Chris is definitely like, he's also somebody who is played and thought of in a modern radio context, and he's put on the CMAs and he's put on these award shows, but he's nothing like any of these artists that are all in there. You know, his songs aren't the cliche songs, but like he's also written the cliche songs. You know, he wrote what's that? Drink a Beer, Luke Bryan song. He wrote that.
Yeah.
I you know what I mean? But like if he were to sing
It'd
it,
been better if it was just his song.
if he were to sing that song, it would sound like Chris Stapleton.
Yeah.
Even though lyrically, when you hear Luke Bryan sing it, you're like, this is, you know, this. But yeah. Anyway,
No, that's good.
I'm trying to. This is a new one that I'm gonna release soon. But I wrote a song called My Amelia, which was basically kind of feelings that I was having for somebody. but like I just also like the name Amelia, so I just kind of put them together, you know. People are like, who's that? And I'm like, oh, it's actually just a name, but like the song's real, about something real that I was feeling. That was probably my favorite song I've written because it's short, it's very simple, but it's just like, hopefully I don't mess it up too much if I play it because I haven't practiced in a little while. But it's short and it's simple, but like for some reason I just feel that song a lot, and that one's probably one of my favorites. And then also like musically, or not even lyrically, my favorite is a song called "Between Me and the Devil" that I wrote. I really like that one. I just cause like I kind of stumbled upon it, and after I wrote it, I realized I like something I did in it that I never like tried to do. You know what I mean? It's like surprises when you surprise yourself with something you didn't know you could do it. Like, kind of, it's a cool kind of thing, you know. So those two are my favorites, because they feel most me. They feel the most me, if that makes sense. If I were to like sit down and play songs that felt 100% something I was feeling, it would be those two songs. Because one references like a love I was feeling. A love that at the moment when I wrote the song I hadn't really felt before, you know, and then the other one was at the moment I wrote that song, kind of a darkness that I was feeling that I hadn't felt before, you know what I mean? So it's like, I guess those two are my favorites, you could say, yeah. Yeah.
What would you say, like, you have the most success with, like, sitting down and saying, okay, tonight I'm going to write some music, or with, like, being hit in the head with like a melody and be like, I gotta get this down, like, and then it kind of flows. Like, what do you have more success with, like,
randomness. When I sit down and try to write a song, most of the time it doesn't work, and I'll go through months without really writing anything. I'll go through months without, and it's frustrating because you hear these things and be, oh man, I write songs all the time, and I'm like, it frustrates me because I feel I like start to, and this is dumb, but like you start to like fear, oh, did I lose it? You know what I mean? Is that inspiration ever gonna come back? And it took me like 4 or 5 times where it came back to realize that it's always going to come back. It just comes in waves. And it'll go through a wave where I'll write five or six good songs. The rest will be junk, but I'll write a ton of songs that I won't write for a while. And it hits me. I'll feel it. Something will come into my head, and it's almost like this like wall I have in my brain. Water just hits it, and I know I can open the dam up, and it's just going to burst instantly. And most of the songs that I really enjoy, I write in 5 or 10 minutes, and they're not like I don't have to try. It's almost like they're floating around and I just kind of reach up and grab them. So it's like those are the songs that I've Amelia, I wrote that in 10 minutes on Thanksgiving night. I was literally sitting downstairs and I had this weird idea come in my head, and I went upstairs and wrote it. It's like, but then when I've sat down and I've worked on songs for hours, I end up looking at them and and I just don't like them at all. Not to say they're bad songs, but they're just not organic, and I was in the studio with my producer Dave, and we were talking about it, and it's the same way in the studio. The reason I love that song Amelia so much is when we worked on it in the studio, we finished and recorded and did it all in like an hour and a half. The whole song, in total time it took to make that song, record it, even master it, the whole thing took 2 hours. And like it's 100% organic, and like that's the kind of thing I like. So like, to answer your question, yeah, probably when it's randomness that I get more success with. Even though now I'm getting better at sparking whatever that random thing is, that creative part of my brain, to where I can almost spark it on command more. I haven't much lately, but it's weird. It's a weird thing, and I've kind of like learned about it more in my own head. It's like the way I create, Some people can just sit down and write these great songs all the time. And those people like annoy me because I'm like, I know I can write songs that I like. It's just a matter of like when I get that inspiration, So yeah, to answer your question, yeah, probably the more randomness is where I find more success. You gotta learn your own mind, and you gotta learn how you can spark that part of your mind.
Yeah.
Because it's less about the product. It's less about making the product. It's more about how do you get to the place where you can make the product. Yeah. So it's like, for a while I was like, oh, I gotta write good songs. I gotta sit down and write good songs. But then it was like, I realized, oh, how do I write good songs? Right. I gotta go to the place where I can get to where my mind doesn't have to write the song. The song writes itself. Yeah. And as soon as I literally feel like that happens, when I write songs that I really like, the songs write themselves. I don't think about the lyrics. It's weird as it sounds, like I just write it down, and there's a little bit of thinking about the lyrics, but there's like, it's not hard for me, and so it's a matter of when it's hard for me to come up with something. Most of the time, I don't like what it ends up. So it's exactly what you said. It's like it's finding your own thing in your mind. It's like, how do I get to this point? When does this occur? How does this happen? And I haven't really figured out exactly yet, but I'm getting better at piecing the pieces together, like putting the pieces together where like, oh, you know, this is when I come up with these lyrics. Well, I can write these lyrics down, and I'm a little bit better at playing music now, so I can fuse the lyrics with something I come up with. You know what I mean? It's just all about, like, the more you play, the better you get at all of it, so then the better you get at finding that, I guess you could say. All right, here we go. Well, something's going wrong on Main Street. The preacher's drinking all his wine, selling choruses for pennies so we can pay our freedom fines. An old man said, I do believe the world is coming to an end. Well, old man, I think I agree, 'cause I can feel some darkness round the bend. Yeah, I can feel some darkness round the bend. Where even violence is peaceful, and even murder gets excused. How will our children define evil? Or will they look back less amused? Old man said, I do believe the world is coming to an end. Oh man, I think I agree, 'cause I can see some darkness round then. Well, I can see some darkness round then. The devil's looking down at us. His big white mansion's doused in blood. He steals our time and steals our trust, and makes us feel the ones we love. And nothing here is really what it seems. Yeah, nothing here is really what it Old man said, I do believe the world is coming to an end. Old man, I think I agree, 'cause I can see some darkness round the bend. Yeah, I can see some darkness round